The tree, this beautiful tree, has got to be the loneliest thing on earth. It's completely ignored. People drive right past the tree. They drive right past the tree towards the football stadium or towards the flea market. They do not notice this gorgeous tree. But the tree is forced to pay attention to the people that ignore it, especially when they hit the tree with their cars or throw garbage at its trunk. The tree cannot be happy about this, and it cannot be happy with its prospects of connecting to other members of its species. The tree needs neighboring trees to pollinate its seeds. But how can it do that if it's separated from the other trees by a sea of asphalt? There are almost no other trees in the lot, and the other trees that are in the parking lot are either very far away from the tree or disconnected from the tree from all the asphalt. And even if magically its seeds are pollinated by the neighboring trees, where are the seeds going to grow? How in God's name are the seeds going to take root in the asphalt? The tree is completely ignored, and on top of that, it has no chance of reproduction. And the Rose Bowl or the city may decide someday to just chop down the tree. They might decide they need even more parking spaces, and then the tree is gone, and it has no offspring. There's no lineage. It's completely off the map. And that would be horrible beyond belief. It would be horrible. It really bothers me. And it bothers me because I identify with this tree. I identify with this tree. I'm a single guy. I feel disconnected from our culture sometimes. And my grandma has been pressing me. She's been saying, Joel, I want some great grandkids before I die, but I'm a single guy. So I identify with this tree. Not only do I identify with this tree, the more I keep looking at this tree, the more I see its beauty. The more I see how disconnected it is from its environment, the more I identify with its loneliness, the more I start to love the tree. I become a lover of the tree. I love the tree. And I identify with the tree. Why shouldn't this tree have a chance to reproduce? Why shouldn't this tree have a chance to reproduce? It's beautiful. It's a beautiful tree. Why shouldn't it have a chance to reproduce? Why?
It was a major puzzle for philosophers to capture why it was that we should care about the natural world. What's wrong when my 4-year-old son goes out with a stick and starts whacking a plant or pulling legs off a fly or something like that? I mean, it's something that reacts, this is something against which we have a visceral reaction, and yet it's hard to articulate why we should have a visceral reaction to such cruelty against insects or little animals or plants.
We live in an age of the invisible worker. So much of the really important stuff that is done today is done by people who don't get the credit that they deserve. Marx understood a hell of a lot more than people give him credit for today in our capitalist culture. The tree, this beautiful tree, is one of those invisible workers. It is doing so much stuff for us that it is not getting any credit for at all. It's a model citizen. It's doing so much. It cleans our air. It doesn't just provide us oxygen through photosynthesis. It actually cleans the air that we ruin by polluting it. It cleans the air. It cleans our water. And it provides us shelter. And it cools the air. It cools the air too. It cools the parking lot. Does it get credit for any of these things? No. Is it asked to do those things? No. It just does it. It does those things. And it doesn't get any credit.
It's probably reducing the amount of pollutants in the air by about 5 pounds a year. So the leaves, the twigs, the branches are intercepting small particles that then stick to the parts of the tree. And the stomates, the pores in the leaves, are actually absorbing gases. And those gases are metabolized in the tree itself and translocated through the tree. Not only ozone, which is a pollutant of prime health concern here, but also the nitrogen oxides that go into forming ozone. So this tree is removing maybe 2 to 3 pounds of ozone a year, ½ pound of nitrogen dioxide, also particulate matter, probably a couple pounds of small dust-like particulates, even smaller than dust size, that people can inhale and are also a health hazard. So the tree is kind of directly cleaning the air through this filtration and absorption process.
I am sure that the tree would rather not have to do this. I mean, it's not good for the tree at all, but it's doing it anyway. Not only surviving in the midst of pollution that it did not cause, but actually helping to clean up our messes. I am in awe of the tree. We should all be on our hands or knees thanking this tree in the lot, doing these things that no one has asked it to do. I'm in awe of it. I love it. The same amount of respect that Mother Teresa gets, we should give to this tree. It's a saint. The tree is a saint. It doesn't deserve to be receiving trials and tribulations like some biblical, miserable character like Job. It needs some support. It needs some help. It needs some help. It's got to get some help. The tree is starved from water and oxygen because the asphalt is blocking it. The tree pit is too small. And then the soil itself is compacted from the construction. And so the water and oxygen can't reach the roots as easily. It's no surprise the tree has had problems. It's no surprise the tree is stunted. It's stunted. It's almost like a dwarf. It's not at all what it could be. And that's the problem. The tree needs to be as happy as it should be.
Life in a parking lot's hard. Things run into trees. They have to be pruned to keep them up out of the way. It's not the easiest existence for a tree.
The Rose Bowl game is the biggest event that happens around the tree each year. There were probably 200,000 people that were there at the game. So many, I couldn't believe it. So much excitement about the football game. But I was not really interested in the game. I was interested to see how the game was going to impact the tree. And there definitely were some very significant impacts. The top of the canopy of the tree was getting hit by the buses. And that's bad. And hopefully it's okay, but I'm sure it damaged a number of twigs, and there were twigs that were lying on the ground by the tree. I saw that afterwards. And that's horrible. But those buses are fucking huge. All these huge corporate buses, Yahoo's coming in, expensive buses, leisure buses, American money. Big corporate event, lots and lots of money. The other thing was that with all those people there was a lot of trash that was generated, lots of trash, and the trash was fucking everywhere. There was trash everywhere. Anyway, yeah, and the tree, it cannot be happy by getting hit by those buses or by that trash. Yeah, it's not good.
We have all sorts of different materials that are coming from these cars, antifreeze, oil, rubber, and other chemicals, other contaminants.
Obviously, being in an urban environment, any tree is susceptible to things like air pollution.
The leaf has little pores we call stomates. When it opens these little mouths and there's ozone around, then the ozone enters the leaf as well. And ozone will, it's a very reactive material and destroys biological tissue. So when the ozone gets into the leaf through those cells, then we see a great deal of damage occurring.
Trees are like people in a way. A healthy person can survive a lot of negative impacts to their health, and a person that's kind of weak and sickly to begin with may tend to get sicker more often and not recover as quickly. Trees are that way too.
My tree has to deal with hordes of very small but ruthless pathogens. These pathogens are what my great-grandmother would call schnorrers. They just take. They don't give anything back. They're not the kinds of neighbors that anyone would want. Our world, and the tree's world, is filled with these schnorrers. Relationships should be reciprocal. There should be generosity from both ends. It should not be just about taking stuff from one being and destroying parts of it, potentially all of it in the process. Raping and pillaging. What the fuck? It's not the way it should be. And the tree just stands there and takes it. Who are these miserable creatures? The first one's a small moth. It's called the western sycamore borer. It's like a relentless miner. It bores into the beautiful bark of the sycamore. It creates blemishes in its beautiful skin. The borer eats the beautiful bark and the outer phloem. And the phloem is where the nutrients are carried to different parts of the tree. So it eats the bark and the phloem. Thankfully, usually it avoids attacking the cambium, which is the tissue that grows the wood of the tree and expands the trunk. If it does pierce the cambium, the tree will die. Thank God. It hasn't pierced my tree's cambium. But it could. It easily could. In fact, these borers have killed trees by piercing cambiums, and it's killed trees that were weakened by being surrounded by concrete. So it could easily happen. The second pathogen, the second schnorrer, is a fungus called the Sick-Amour anthracnose, or the sycamore blight.
Anthracnose, when it comes in the spring, kills the leaves. The first young batch of leaves often completely die and fall off, and then the tree has to produce a new set of leaves.
It survives in the buds that were infected the previous year, even though those buds may appear still healthy. And then if the conditions are right, it grows from those buds into the twigs and causes the death of individual shoots.
And in a really severe anthracnose season, when the spring is really moist and there's a lot of wind and change in temperature, the tree may have to produce 3 or even 4 sets of leaves, and that does really deplete the tree's energy.
We tend to get a rain of dying leaves for quite a while.
There's certain areas that are just wasted, where almost all the leaves are withered and damaged. Some of the fruit even looks like it may be affected by the anthracnose.
But then all of a sudden, we've got lace bugs. Lace bugs are small insects, and they're deceptively beautiful. They have small nerve-like wings that look very lacy. They feed on the bottom surface of the leaves, and they use their mouths that are shaped like little vacuum cleaner stylets, which suck the contents of the cells in the leaves. They just suck them out, and that causes bleaching in the leaves, and it creates actually holes. The leaves, when they're attacked by the lace bugs, they become dry, and some of them will fall to the ground. Most don't completely die, and they manage to stay on the tree, even though they are brown and beleaguered. These fucking lace bugs will usually attack every single leaf on the tree. And there are thousands of these nasty sucking insects on each leaf. So we're talking about millions of these bugs on the tree at times. And they're not only sucking out food, they actually shit all over the leaves. I still can't get over that. What audacity. Imagine millions of uninvited guests who continually raid your kitchen, eat your food, and then shit on your table. That's what we're talking about here. It's not only extremely offensive, but it's crazy. It doesn't stop them from staying to eat and shitting some more. The gorgeous leaves become covered in lace bugs and lace bug shit. Tiny black spots cover the gorgeous leaves. It's outrageous beyond belief. They attack and destroy the leaves, and then they add insult to injury by shitting all over their victims. Imagine how we would react if something started eating and defecating on the fingers of one of our children. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about. These bugs, these disgusting bugs, have wings, and they move about the tree, destroying, eating, and shitting. Why don't they fly off to some other place? Why don't they leave my tree alone? But they don't leave. They are not strong flyers. They just stay on the tree that they were raised on. These millions of bugs, they don't like change. They just like destruction and defecation. They just like to destroy, eat, and shit. Not offering a hell of a lot to the tree.
As environmentalists began to realize that some of the greatest environmental challenges were not occurring out in Yellowstone, but rather in the heart of Los Angeles, in East LA, and along the LA river basin and so on, some of them at least began to realize that we had to turn back towards the city, to the places where most of us actually live, and ask how we're treating the environment there.
Hi, I was wondering if you have a coring drill or a jackhammer. I'm looking to drill into asphalt and as quickly and as thoroughly as possible, and I was wondering if you could help me out.
Sure, I'll show you what I have.
Fantastic. Thank you. I told him that I was installing tree guards. He asked if I was with the city of Pasadena. I said yes, and then I foolishly asked him if he wanted to see my permit. Thank God he didn't reply, but he asked if I would be doing this for the other trees in the lot. I told him that I didn't know. I was only told to install tree guards for this tree because it was getting hit by cars. The cop shook his head, muttered something, and drove off. The next week, when I was jackhammering and installing the rest of the tree guards, the cops that were hanging out in the lot never even approached me. They must have thought that I was doing the bidding of the city. The tree is protected, and it makes me happy. But it's not enough, and I have dreams for more. But I gotta be smart. I don't want to just get arrested and not be able to do it. But I want to expand the tree pit. It's only 4 feet right now. It's 4 foot square. And I want to expand it beyond the canopy of the tree. The canopy of the tree is probably at least 25 feet in diameter. And the roots go beyond that, so I should really make it more. I want to get rid of all the asphalt, all the parking spaces around the tree beyond the canopy. I want to get rid of all of it. But I don't know how I can do that without getting arrested. That's going to involve a hell of a lot of jackhammering. I think I'm going to need some allies. I need people to help me. I want to take care of the tree. I love the tree. I got to take care of it. Hegel tells us that the way we perceive the natural world is shaped by our culture. Our perception of the tree in the parking lot is shaped by our culture and language. We have been conditioned to ignore the tree. Our culture is not telling us to pay attention to the tree in the middle of the parking lot. We are taught that the value in the lot has to do with the expensive cars and the asphalt that paves their way. We cannot see the beauty of the tree because our culture directs us away from it and towards the football stadium.
But we can overcome that. We can open up our eyes.
The tree can still be noticed. We can observe it, and it needs to be noticed.
I built giant earrings for the tree. They are large versions of the male and female fruit of the tree. And I decided to try them on the tree the other day because I wanted to highlight the tree's beauty. I wanted people to see how gorgeous the tree is. I wanted them to see the beautiful fruit that are dangling by the tree. The tree is producing all these fruit balls in the hopes that they would be pollinated, in the hopes that somehow miraculously its fruit balls would be pollinated by the neighboring trees. But no one really sees those beautiful fruit balls. Maybe if the tree has these giant earrings that are large versions of the male and female fruits of the tree, maybe it'll help the tree get its seeds pollinated. Maybe the other trees will be attracted by these earrings and give the tree's fruit balls the pollen that it needs to produce healthy seeds. And maybe people who are ignoring the tree will finally see the tree's beauty. Maybe the tree will finally be noticed.
People started talking about the tree and its surroundings.
It's the arroyo seco that's moving through this parking lot, and I doubt that most people even know it's there.
This would have been probably 100 years ago, a very rocky, wide passage here with a large number of sycamores, cottonwoods, willows, trees like that, right in the stream itself or right on the edges of the stream. After the floods of 1934 and again another flood in 1938, they went ahead and they channelized the stream. That is, they put it in concrete. But even after that, most of the area around here was unpaved. And so the water could still sink into the ground. And it's only been really in the last 15 or 20 years in which, basically to make things easier to park, they've gone ahead and they've paved this whole area here, which has really not been good for the watershed. And it's certainly not good for the trees and kind of habitat that is characteristic of California streams, such as sycamores and others.
Descartes has caused a lot of problems for my tree. Descartes believed in rationality and science, and he believed that we should use those tools as weapons to become quote-unquote lords and masters of nature. Descartes thought that it was our responsibility to control the world, and it was our right to use the natural world for our own purposes. There may have been a beautiful green landscape in the Arroyo Seco region, but Descartes justifies the subjugation of that land for the fleeting enjoyment of football. Descartes would see no reason to care for a tree in a parking lot that was blocking or impeding the traffic of quote-unquote progress. So he's caused a lot of problems, and he's caused a lot of problems for my tree. When they built the parking lot, they were not thinking about my tree, and they were not thinking about trees in general. A well-designed parking lot would have 50% tree coverage and vegetative swales so that rainwater would drain into the tree pits. The parking lot could be built with decomposed granite so that water and oxygen could percolate into the soil. But it's not that way. It's not that way at all. Runoff from the cars in the asphalt parking lot drains into the polluted and concretized river, polluting it even more. And there is a drain. There's a drain about 20 feet from the base of my tree that drains into the concrete river, a river that must be less than 100 feet away from the tree. All that water is being funneled into that drain when it could be going into my tree. Why is the parking lot and the river thought of as drains? The tree needs that water. The tree is not getting enough water. I'm bringing water to the tree. I'm trying to help the tree out. I'm trying to bring water to the tree, but I cannot bring the tree enough.
All this precious water is being drained into this concretized river. And that's horrible. It should not be this way. The tree needs some help. The tree needs help. And I've been trying to help the tree. I have been working hard to convince the city and the Rose Bowl to remove the asphalt beneath the tree's canopy so that it can get the water and oxygen that it needs. I really hope this happens. I pray that the days of the tree being ignored by the city will soon be over. This is a very important day for the tree. The Rose Bowl cleared 400 square feet of asphalt beneath the canopy. It isn't the full amount of asphalt that I wanted removed, but it's a very significant amount, and it should help the tree a lot. The tree will get much more of the water and oxygen that it needs. No longer is there a minuscule tree pit. The tree now has a lot of room, finally. The Rose Bowl took away the tree guards and put cones around the perimeter of mulch. This should dissuade cars from coming to the tree. It also marks the tree as an important being. It marks the tree as an important being, and that's the way it should be. I'm very grateful to Daryl Dunn and Jess Waiters from the Rose Bowl for doing this asphalt cut. I appreciate their support very much, and I'm sure the tree is feeling gratitude to them today as well. I'm also extremely thankful to Steve Madison, the Vice Mayor of Pasadena, his field representative Taka Suzuki, and council member Sid Tyler. They have really proved that they care about the tree. God bless them.
We were able to work with the Rose Bowl staff to provide some additional protection for this tree. And I think a big part of it is just awareness. You know, what happens with our beautiful tree inventory sometimes is it becomes like wallpaper, and we don't notice it. We forget how special it is. And perhaps this tree can become an emblem for that, to remind us all how important these things are and to pay a little more attention.
And it'll be hopefully around here, you know, a long time for all of us to enjoy.
The Rose Bowl placed a permanent boulder barrier around the tree. A permanent boulder barrier. Now the tree has permanent protection from the lethal cars and buses. It has institutional protection when it was once completely helpless. This is a monumental change for the tree, a monumental change. And of course, I am thrilled beyond belief. But I am not satisfied. The tree remains a lonely and isolated individual. That doesn't mean it has to stay that way. The tree may not be able to reproduce on its own, but it might be able to reproduce if I help the tree reproduce. What kind of lover would I be if I didn't help the tree reproduce? I started gathering seeds from the tree, and I planted them at a wonderful nursery, the Theodore Payne Foundation. Holiday Wagner, Luis Gonzalez, and other wonderful people at the nursery nurtured the seeds, and I waited and I prayed. And eventually, there was amazing news. The tree did reproduce. Finally, 200 tree babies emerged from the soil. 200 tree babies. They were beautiful, beautiful and tiny. Gorgeous tree babies. I did not take them for granted. I was struck by how fragile they are, and I did not want anything to happen to them. The first batch of tree babies never made it. They never germinated. They never made it out of the soil. Perhaps the tree wasn't healthy enough previously. Perhaps it was not able to grow healthy seeds. But now the tree is healthier, and it did produce healthy seeds. I pray that these tree babies grow up to become strong and healthy trees, and that they have easy and even luxurious lives, easier lives than their parent. But there's a problem. I need to find places for these tree babies to grow. I don't have enough land to plant 200 tree babies, not even remotely close. I needed to find people to adopt these tree babies. I needed people to help me. And amazingly, many wonderful people decided to adopt tree babies. The tree babies found green homes. They were far better than the parking lot that their parent had to endure. At schools, students made sculptures or painted rocks to adorn their tree babies. As large sculptural necklaces, tree babies grew in parks and in front of museums. And a grove of tree babies grew happily near the parent tree. The tree was no longer alone, and suddenly I was no longer alone either. Somehow, when I was finding homes for the tree babies, I fell in love. Again, but this time to someone from my own species. Allison Joy Goldberg, the love of my life. We married underneath the tree. I am sure that the tree was happy. I had helped the tree, and in return, the tree had taught me how to love. My grandma sang a song that her grandma used to sing, and we all danced around the tree.